What's up, guys, and welcome back for another EVE Online solo mining episode. And today we're just kind of hanging out in the Endurance. We haven't taken this ship out in a while, and with the amount of traffic that's going on with Crimson Harvest and everything, it's probably not a bad idea. You always have to be kind of mindful of kind of what's going on event-wise and why there's a bunch of traffic and stuff in high-sec systems that you might be operating in. It's a very good idea to do that. There are no pirate strongholds here, which is something I always check for. The main focus for this episode is to kind of just talk about everything that's kind of going on with me and in EVE, or with just EVE in general. One thing I notice a lot, especially in comparing the Viridian in focus articles and comparing them to the Havoc in focus articles, we got a lot of information, a lot of good gameplay information in all of the Viridian expansion articles, and we're getting pretty close to we're fast approaching November 14th for Havoc, and the first in focus article that came out is basically just kind of justifying. It's like they talk about the soundtrack, they talk about the environment, and the justification for a lot of the gameplay. There's really it's not interesting at all. It's like they've kind of just doubled down on what we already know. At least with the Viridian stuff, we got new information with those articles. So I think at the end of the day, the Havoc expansion is probably not going to be something that's going to affect me too greatly. The Viridian expansion did affect me a little bit in terms of Marauders and how they kind of weakened or made the Marauders more vulnerable. So it remains to be seen if I actually, invest in time in going out and doing any more ratting or rated DED sites with Marauders because of that. But hopefully we're going to answer some questions that I've seen on the channel with this episode. The big one being the are you able to like solo mine in nullsec? And the quick answer to that is yes. Not a whole lot changes, it just kind of scales up. So in high sec and low sec, rats come on grid. That's another question I'm seeing a lot too, is how do you deal with the NPCs? And you really just deal with them the same way as you would anywhere else. You're gonna throw drones on them and destroy them that way. It might take a little longer. And battleships with light drones, you probably won't take a battleship down, but you really want to invest in your drone skills, your shield skills, your navigation skills. So shield management, shield operation, shield upgrade, tactical shield manipulation. For navigation, you want navigation 5, for instance. You want some armor, hull, you want survivability, and then all your drone durability and drone sharpshooting, and then your faction drone skill. The reason is because you can, what I do mostly is if I'm out with a single ship, no fleet, mining, whether it be Kernite, Crocite, or whatever, I'll orbit the rock while I'm mining it. That keeps speed. So if I'm tanking a battleship, it can mean a 50% reduction in the damage that it's doing to me if I'm moving. So cruisers, destroyers, frigates, those things go down with light drones pretty easily. So you really just want to keep moving, and most of the time you're not gonna take down a battleship. You can, the lights will eventually take one down, unless it's one that reps, but it just takes a considerable amount of time. And I just prefer to tank those rats, because by the time you actually get close to killing it, you're probably going to fill up your ore hold. So instead of having your drones really far off away from you, I just kind of like put them back in the ship and just kind of tank that damage. And then when I fill up, I warp off and tether up and recharge and go back at it. But yes, solo mining in nullsec is possible. A lot of what people do is they have fleets of their own alts and things. So either Orca, but most likely Porpoise, and a bunch of Hulks or something. So with all those alts and all those light drones, it's much easier to take down the battleship rats and stuff like that. And that's how most people kind of combat that. The other thing you have to kind of be weary of in nullsec is you have there's the ability, it's rare, but you have the ability for rat carriers, rat dreads, or rat titans to spawn on the anomaly that you're mining. So you want to be mindful of that. You want to make sure that those guys are added to your overview so you can see those guys come on grid so you can immediately warp off. Now, it happens a lot more frequent than it used to, but it's still pretty rare. But knowing that it can happen is better than not knowing at all and getting surprised. And that's why I probably wouldn't take like a skiff or something that's really slow to align off. I've gotten away from the rat carrier before in the past, before they slowed and kind of gimped the skiff. But I think now in the current state with the skiff and its alignment and everything, I think that it would probably actually get caught, neuted, and then destroyed pretty quick. Which is why I usually just kind of use a Procure. They're cheap, or a Mackinac, which has more EHP and faster align and things. But a lot of the questions I'm going to be answering today are actually in terms of, you guys have had a lot of questions in terms of like nullsec, and I actually do want to eventually move this character and move this series to nullsec when we get to a point where we may only have to do like a couple days of high-sec mining to really fuel our manufacturing. So I think addressing these questions about nullsec is relevant. Now, whenever I talk about like solo and null, for me what that means is like you can be a part of a corporation in null and still operate solo. Probably 95 or 98% of the people that I know are in nullsec are operating solo with their own accounts and doing their own thing, and seldomly they'll go do roams and kind of do fleets for fun. If you actually get in the right corporation and the right people, and they're not complete overlords for the most part. So if you're looking to get into null, it's the best thing I can tell you, the cheapest thing I can tell you is to find a good null corporation with good people that allows you to operate and kind of do your own thing, and without any crazy requirements. You can also rent, but renting is very expensive and it's very difficult to actually maintain a system if you're the only character, even if you have multiple alts. It's possible, I've done it before. If you look at the solo Omega series, I did that, but I didn't do it for very long because it was just like, I felt like it was just like throwing ISK away, because I wasn't playing enough to justify anything, or the amount of play that would require to, not just break even, but also make a profit above the rent. The other thing you can do is you can operate in NPC null, which is non-sovereignty null. So there's NPC pirate stations and things like that. The issue with that is it's a lot more hostile. A lot of people looking for PvP are going to go to NPC null because that's kind of where the targets usually are. Nullsec, in comparison to like high sec and low sec, is like the safest place in space. Probably the safest place in New Eden, period. Even more so than high sec, because I can sit in an nullsec system and I might see one neutral come in. Sometimes it's like just one a day, or I'll see a couple a day, but like, for the most part, you don't really see a whole lot of people that aren't blue to you, which is a really big reason to kind of transition out there if you're kind of done with the whole high sec thing. But I do personally enjoy things like Poshman. I do enjoy Wormhole. It's just that for sustainable income and reaching my goals and things like that, nullsec makes a lot more sense for me, because a lot of my passive income is generated more easily in null in terms of manufacturing and PI and just logistics, using ships with jump drives to move stuff around. It's just, it ends up being more sustainable over a longer period of time to kind of grow and everything. With that being said, if you've never lived in null before, it can be kind of tedious getting used to everything and how it all works. You have to, instead of like being in high sec primarily, and you're just used to like, if you need a new ship, you go to the nearest market, pick it up, and fly back to where you operate. You have to kind of like think more 2 or 3 steps ahead, and you might, train into a ship and get ready to fly something, and then go to Jita, buy it, get it on a freight, It might be a couple days before you get it. So there's a lot less instant gratification in terms of getting into ships, getting into fits. You have to be a lot more determined in your your intentions and your day-to-day operations, because you might have to wait a considerable amount, not a considerable amount of time, but you might have to wait, you know, a couple days for your supplies to kind of make it out to you, which I don't think is a bad thing. I actually probably spend less ISK being in nullsec, because when you're in a high sec and everything is available, it's just, if everything is just like a couple of jumps away in Jita, you end up spending a lot of ISK, because you're like, what if I play it? What if I do? What about this ship? Or what about this ship? And you buy it, and you know, you don't end up liking it, and yeah. So it's actually probably better for the bottom line to kind of hang out and null and have to wait and be more thoughtful with what you're skilling into and everything. In terms of like Crimson Harvest, you want to be really careful in high sec and stuff like that, and even in null sec. Just pretty much anywhere in New Eden you want to be kind of safe, because the biggest selling point for Crimson Harvest right now is the 90% PvP drop. What that means is when they kill you, as opposed to the normal amount of loot that drops or is destroyed, now 90% is dropped, and only 10% of the mods and stuff like that are destroyed. So you're going to see a lot more PvP fleets out during Crimson Harvest, because the reward is much greater for the same effort that they normally do. So even for me, I don't have any issues for the most part, but I do have things like this endurance hanging out that I'll take out if the system is hot, or if there's a lot of situations going on. And pretty much anywhere that you're in high sec, you want to make sure you kind of keep an eye on local, add appropriate contacts for corporations like safety and stuff like that, so you can see when common gang fleets kind of come in local, and you can kind of adjust your strategy and everything. In terms of like the mining we're doing here, we're still kind of focusing on Veldspar, because we're just kind of building, essentially at this point we're just kind of building an amount of compressed Veldspar to send out to null, just so we can have a ridiculous amount of trit ready to go. I have done quite a bit of mining in nullsec as well, in terms of like Kernite, Mercoxis. That's, you know, primarily a focus mine for things like Isogen and Morphite. Morphite will go into a lot of the T2 stuff that we'll be manufacturing, but overall it's kind of been just business as usual for the most part. Nothing really crazy has been happening. I've gotten kind of in a routine, which is kind of expected, stabilizing PI and just working on things like product discovery and working on all these alts, getting them all kind of skilled into appropriate roles. This tune right here is essentially my main alt, as it were. So she's primarily like Sino, command ship and stuff like that. So she doesn't really have a skill focus. She just kind of skills everything that's relevant for what we're doing. But a lot of what the alts in nullsec have been training into is maxing out salvaging and everything. So that's to help fuel the rig manufacturing that we will be doing. So we need to basically go out and do a bunch of ratting, loot all that rat loot to melt down for megasite, noxium, little bits of, you know, isogen, megasite, noxium, things like that, and then couple that with the import we do from HiSec here to drive a lot of the major components going into a lot of stuff we're building. And then we want to be able to salvage all those Rex 2. All that salvage, you know, gets turned into the rigs that we are going to be building for the Venture Sino and the Crane. And right now we're focusing on cargo optimization. So we'll be building a mix of small and medium cargo hold optimization, and we'll probably invent a few copies. And, you know, we want to make, because we do want some, we want more Tech 2s and we want Tech 1s, because a lot of my fits will run 2 Tech 2s and then 1 Tech 1 to maximize cargo, especially for the Venture Sino, because you're very strict on, you only want 200 liquid ozone in that ship. It's a one and done kind of thing, because you don't want to necessarily have any left over, because the Venture, in most of the time, will get popped. So you want to make sure that you don't sacrifice too much. But I'll probably go a little bit more over like that fit when we start building those things in manufacturing, so you can kind of see the justifications of, you know, why it's fitted the way it is. So, but like that's the other thing too I was talking about in one of my other videos, is manufacturing things in nullsec that are consumed. So fuel blocks are really nice because they're always being consumed every hour by structures, by process, and with reactions. And then same thing with like venture sinos. You know, people have to move these big ships around with sinos. People have to move their rorquals and their jump freighters, and you know, venture sinos will die if they get caught pretty quickly. So, and they're cheap, so that people don't really care. So there's always a market for for venture sino ships out there as well, and it's gonna base the need if you go out to null, the need of the area is going to be largely dependent on what's going on there. So it's not really like doing fuel blocks and adventure sinos is maybe not like a guaranteed thing that you could do regardless of where you are in null. I mean, obviously everybody's going to be jumping stuff all over the place. It's a good place to start, but you might be in a nullsec area that is more about carrier ratting or hot dropping, so it might be more beneficial to build fighters, or it might be more beneficial to build blops ships, or build doctrines for maybe a neighboring PvP corp or whatever. So it's kind of just reading the environment, seeing what the demand is, and then kind of going from there. I have been focusing a lot. I've been focusing more on my product discovery lately, because I have a lot of accounts that still need their max rewards for that. And I am actually looking forward to the Citizen Science app that's coming out that will allow you to do your product discovery on your phone and still get the rewards in game. I think that's going to definitely make my life easier and everything. And then I'm also, I'm not really scaling the PI right now. We have 4 characters in null that are working PI. I don't think I'll be adding any more anytime soon. A lot of the alts that are kind of training up, and we're training them up essentially to be skill point farmers for the most part. So what that really means is I let them alpha train until they're like 5.5, and then once they get Omega turned on, then I give them a implant set that increases all of their attributes, and then I respec them, and then they train into a certain category, and then to maximize the amount of SP they get a month. Now, I don't suck out their skill points every single month. I usually let them like sit for 6 months, even to a year, and then just bulk extract everybody kind of once a year or so, because I usually buy the extractors in bulk so I can get the best price per unit. And that's kind of the way it works. If you've watched my skill point farming video, about the only way to make it profitable is to buy the extractors in bulk, so they're less cost per unit, and also you have to pay for your Omega 24 months at a time, so it's less per month, so your margins are better. But right now our biggest goal is to kind of scale everything to where we can be somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 billion to start, about 30 billion a month, to kind of work towards our 1 trillion goal. So we're gonna hope that we can get that kind of all optimized and everything. One of the other questions I've gotten recently as well is, do I plan on doing like a solo wormhole series, which I think is kind of hilarious. I've done like so many of like solo alpha, solo omega, solo nullsec, solo mining. So I think it's just natural for people to wonder if I am gonna kind of continue the trend, as it were. Let me get out to grid here. But I did kind of touch a little bit on wormholes with the very tail end of the solo omega series, and I have always wanted to do like a primarily focused series that is extremely exclusive to just living in wormhole space, and in terms of and what I mean by that is like literally living there, not just like day tripping. So yes, to answer that question, that is definitely on kind of the docket of things that I want to do. But I also want to do a solo Poshman, so living in Poshman and doing mining out there and doing ratting out there and Poshman grinding and things like that. So there is still a very big list of things that I want to kind of showcase and kind of do series over and everything. A lot of it right now is we're really kind of building and focusing on manufacturing and just building a good production pipeline for the most part to help kind of fuel more expensive situations like a Poshman engagement or getting set up in Wormhole and everything. But a lot of like all the, like every time like anybody uses like a referral link, my referral link here on the channel, all of that, you know, the things I get from that helps like kind of go into like developing this series and kind of developing the solo null series and potentially like the future series that we do. So since the test server has been shut down, we did a lot of showcasing and demonstration using the test server. But since the test server has actually been shut down, the main focus lately has been just kind of fun building as far as like gathering aspects of a game that allows us to do more diverse content. So I'm trying to one of my big things about Eve is like I could, you know, like most people say, like the best way to you know get Plex is just to swipe a card. For me, I like the challenge of not actually putting real money into the game and like earning it and doing things like that. So we're trying to fund the entire channel based on actual just mining and manufacturing and things like that. So if you see a lot of like the referral link stuff here on the channel, it plays a very, very big part. So if you've never used the link on your account, it'll work with old accounts. You can get the 1 million, or if you want to make a new account using the link, that, you know, helps me out a lot as well. Just know if you do, it directly will help with everything that we're kind of putting in. But yes, to answer that question, overall, Wormhole, yes. Poshman, yes. We want to be able to build up our manufacturing and our kind of operation to help build. We want to be able to build our own stuff to be able to go into to Wormhole space and kind of mess around. And then if we get kicked out or whatever, we can kind of fall back on our infrastructure, build up an inventory again, and go back in and do it again, which is kind of how I'm thinking about it. I don't want to have to always go back to Jita to like rebuild and like go back in. I want to try to like use nullsec as like the basis of where we'll be. The nullsec will be like our jumping off point into Wormhole space. So if we do get kicked out or something happens, we can just kind of head back to null, gear up again, go find the next wormhole, jump in and go to town. I don't know if the solo Wormhole will be strictly like living in one system and operating, because I think that we can probably do a lot better if we're kind of a moving target for the most part. But I really love the ice fields in Wormhole space because you can get pretty much all of the isotopes from a single ice field. And so I want to be able to like show mining the anoms out there, killing the rats, doing the sites. So yes, it's definitely on the agenda. Just probably the only thing I probably won't do is like solo low sec, because there's just better places to be in terms of mining in Poshman is easier than mining in low sec, in my opinion. And ratting and null is better than low sec. So there's very few reasons why you'd want to go to low sec to do anything. Maybe you want to find like ESS reserve keys, which requires you to go to low sec and stuff, but those are very niche situations. So I am open to suggestions if you guys want to see a specific series that focuses on a specific thing that we're not already covering. I'm always looking at more ways to kind of show off Eve and show off the strategies and how I kind of do things. It's just the biggest focus right now is with, like I said, the mining. And it took a long time for, I don't know if you've been watching the solo mining series for any like a good amount of time, you know it's taken quite a while to get the manufacturing up to where we are right now. I talked about it for several months, and then did a lot of spreadsheeting, and then it was like probably 3 or 4 months from like me initially mentioning it to now we're running jobs and doing reactions in null. So that's kind of how I approach everything in Eve. I try to find the best, most efficient, cost efficient, risk efficient way to do things, which is a big reason why I pretty much run Mackinac or Endurance in high sec, or in null sec I'm running procures, or the justification that I make for a lot of the ways I do things in Eve is to lower the amount of risk I incur by doing activities and trying to be ISK positive the whole way. And that, with that being said, everything that I want to do moving forward, whether it be like, continuing the high sec mining and doing the manufacturing and all the stuff in null, or doing wormhole stuff or Postman stuff, all of that will still be the major focus during all that will still be getting to my solo 1 trillion net worth goal. So we'll be looking through that lens for everything like that. Go and get this laser up. All right. So somebody who normally wouldn't be like going after 1 trillion net worth probably would make different decisions going into like wormhole space or Poshman. We're gonna keep our expenses low, but we want to keep our income as high as possible. That's why I don't think I'll that's why I don't think I'll set up in a single wormhole system for that series. I think we'll be kind of like a drifter, no pun intended, but go one system, do some things there, and then maybe go down the pipeline, find something else to do. I think that staying in one place too long is probably more of a detriment than a benefit. And that's just kind of my thinking. And in terms of Poshman, the Poshman series will probably be really slow to get off the ground, because a lot of what you're gonna be doing at the beginning of that series would be getting your the reputation up to do different things. We do want to get a porpoise out there with compression, so that we can mine Spud Main and Rackabine and all that stuff and compress it and potentially export it out to nullsec, or just stockpile it, right? That's it's all well and good. I definitely, there's a ton of things I still want to do. I mean, I do want to get more into faction warfare. I've dipped my toe in it a little bit, but for the most part, it doesn't PvP doesn't hold my interest like everything else does in Eve. It's in terms of faction warfare, PvP, I'm not waking up every day saying, oh, I gotta get in there and get some kills, I gotta get some juicy kill mails. That's not really my motivation. My motivation is just ISK generation, net worth growth, and things like that. So any PvP that I do will be one-off, or done on a very rare occasion for the most part. My goal in the next probably month or so, we're going to try to get the volume of high sec mining up to the point where we can kind of mine in high sec for a week and get enough that will sustain us for another 4 weeks in manufacturing and nullsec. And then the solo mining series will probably be 1 week a month we'll be doing the high sec stuff we've normally been doing, and then the rest of the month I'll take her to nullsec, where she's more embedded with everybody else that's out there, and we'll be able to do more nullsec mining with her, because she has a lot of skill. She's max skilled, so it's kind of a waste for her. She's sitting out here doing this when she can do so many other things. So I'm gonna be utilizing the whole jump clone thing, and she'll be basically just going out every 3 weeks to do this stuff to plus up. And also, if we don't run out of Trit or Pyrite or Mexlon or anything like that, if we're doing okay as far as our stockpile in nullsec, then we can kind of extend that period between when we're mining out here. For the most part, it's really just going to depend on what our needs are. And like if at that point I've started, like, let's say a nullsec or a wormhole series, and we have kind of a shopping list of things we have to kind of keep on hand in case we get kind of kicked out and we have to regroup and equip ourselves, our needs might actually change in terms of like what we might need to go after more isogen than trits, or more Noxium than trits, so we might end up doing more nullsec mining than we've done in the past. But since we're at the very beginning stages and we're still in like the research and the initial reaction process of manufacturing, building up the stockpile of trit, Mexilon, pyrite, all these things right now is the focus. When we start building specific things, when we have to go after, we need strictly this isogen or we need this megasite, things will, be a little bit more focused down in that regard. But that is the plan. But I think that's going to be probably it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Got a lot going on now and in the future, so make sure to turn on notifications so you know when new videos go live. And like I said, if you want to support the channel, consider becoming a channel member, or use that referral link in the description and get 1 million skill points on a new or existing account. But anyway, peace out, fly safe, and I'll see you in the next one.